Committee's indulgence, I'm going to reorganize the agenda a little bit more from a standpoint of we've got people in the public who may have come here with the intent to speak, and they may not want to sit through our deliberation about what agenda items are coming next in future meetings or our schedule exactly. So if you'll, yes.
Simon, there was something that I wanted to say also, but I wanted to wait until after the presentation so that the county employees can get back to their job.
Right.
Our total county budget for this year is the highest that it's actually been in the last 6 years. But the public safety budget has decreased dramatically. In general, we usually spend about 20% of our budget on public safety. This year it's 11.7%. And that's because of the loss of the SRS funds, which mainly provide for public safety. In fiscal year 2013-14, that was actually our lowest year for the total county budget, and also the year when we had the least number of total county employees. At that time, we had 10 more public safety employees than we have in the current budget. We have 10 fewer employees budgeted for public safety than we had in that year, but 12 more employees in the budget overall. So we're reducing the number of public safety employees. We've also added 22 employees in other departments across the county. We've added 7 employees in the public health department since fiscal year 13-14, and I know that public health is classified as a special revenue fund, which means that it's supposed to be supported by fees and grants. However, this year we are giving $150,000 from the general fund to public safety, and not public safety, public health. And the public health ending balance this year is going to be $124,000 more than its ending balance last year. So since that $150,000 is coming from the general fund, and that isn't $124,000, that isn't even being used this year for public health, we could allocate that money instead to public safety. That would support a deputy DA or a sheriff's deputy patrol, including a vehicle or a jail deputy. So we also have 4 more employees in buildings, operations, and maintenance than we had 5 years ago, which is about a 30% increase in buildings, operations, and maintenance employees. Do we have 30% more buildings than we had 5 years ago? I don't think we do. Now, the buildings, operations, and maintenance doesn't come out of the general fund, but it is charging the Sheriff's Department $617,000 this year, and that would fund 5 patrol deputies with vehicles or 6 jail deputies. I know that custodial and maintenance services are necessary, but from the perspective of priorities, is it really more important to provide custodial services for the public safety buildings than to provide public safety? If we could have 6 patrol deputies, 5 patrol deputies, or 6 jail deputies.
So, Ms. Goodwin,
yes.
I don't want to cut you off here, but we are talking, you are making suggestions of a recommended without having heard from those programs, and there is an element of what you just said that would require some clarification. So it isn't just custodial, but I don't necessarily think that it might be the right time to do that. Okay. It's also utilities, electricity, water, sewer, garbage, etc. Those the utilities actually do come out of a separate account. In facilities, though, under building operations and maintenance, the utilities is included in that per square footage assessment of 65 cents.
The account, the sheriff's account does have a separate account for utilities expenses. All right, I'll leave buildings and operations and maintenance alone. I'll move on. We've also added 2.75 employees in the planning department in the same time frame. And I'm just using planning as an example because planning department is actually part of the general fund, which also funds public safety, and expenses in the planning department have doubled since fiscal year 2013-14. And I know that they've been understaffed, and they're just now catching up, but on the other hand, budgeting is all about priorities, and I think public safety is a higher priority. Now, without even taking anything away from any actual department, the ending balance in the general fund this year is almost $440,000 more than the ending balance in the general fund last year. So without taking anything away from any actual money that's budgeted for departments this year, we could give that money to the DA's department. That would fund 3 deputy DAs that were asked for today, plus 2 support staff. Or it could be used to fund 4 patrol deputies sharing 2 cars, or it could be used to fund 4 jail deputies. So I'm just saying that if the levy doesn't pass, that there are some economies that we can make in the rest of our budget that would help fund public safety. Not anywhere near the level that it's been, but 4 patrol deputies is better than none. And I just think
So I don't want to interrupt you again, but I think our agenda is structured so that we get these presentations. So you've talked about some, but you didn't talk about all of them, because there are other opportunities that we have yet to address as far as how shoring up certain departments could be achieved. And I think that's absolutely appropriate of the Budget Committee's role and responsibility, is to evaluate what the directions have been to these budgets, to these programs by the board, and say, is that the way we should do things? What if we did things this way? But it really is important that we go through holistically the programs that maybe you have already outlined. We actually have 2 new Budget Committee members. They're boards of commissioner members who have not done this process before, so this is their first time. And I would like to stick to that schedule of trying to figure out, you're exactly outlining, but outlining it in this process of let's hear from some of those departments. You mentioned community development, which is a new program entirely. It's a combination of planning and building and safety, whereas your reference to its doubling in size could be as an...
it isn't, because I looked it up. We
I don't
actually
necessarily want to debate that.
I don't think it's for tonight.
All
I'm
right.
just
It's not on our
illustrating
agenda.
a point where we can
Fine.
have these conversations if they came about in the right way.
I cede the floor.
We're up against that 6 o'clock hour, and I really, yes, Mr. Welch.
Quickly,
Yes.
could we get Margaret to email her ideas, just so that we would have them generally available, so that you could email the
You willing
budget
to do that?
director?
Good.
So that
You
we
went
can
over a lot of
address
stuff.
those when we have the sheriff's department.
Excellent. That'd be great.
Thank you.
All right.
So if the committee will